let's begin by taking a look at polygons and just objects in general in Cinema 4D. So when we're talking about modeling with polygons in Cinema 4D, really everything is going to sort of end up polygons, but there's really a lot of different ways that you can build up your objects in Cinema 4D, and a lot of these ways are really fun, and they offer a lot of the ability to customize how things look and a lot of flexibility because they're based on hierarchy. Okay, and so you're going to have a lot of different avenues to get to the same place. Okay, so let's start by just talking about some of the different ways we can get objects in here. So before we actually start just talking about polygons themselves, we can look at the different shapes that we can create. So we'll talk about this kind of the basic shapes. You can see right here this blue cube. We can start to bring in any of these primitives. Okay, so let's just go ahead and activate a cube here. And you can see in our objects manager the cube, and take note of the little cube icon here. All right, so this isn't really a polygon yet. It's a parametric object, meaning that we have these parameters that we can set, these attributes in our attributes manager that we can change, that will change the shape of our object. So we can make it, taller in the Y, longer in the Z. We can add segments to it by changing our attributes. We can add different segments to it, okay? But the shape of the object is just controlled by our attributes, okay? We could fill it, make it look a little bit different here, change the fillet radius. So we have a certain amount of control here. Okay, you see we also have handles that we can use to change this. But if we were to want to come in and do any sort of complex reshaping of this, which is what we want to do when we're polygon modeling in most cases, we can't really do anything at this point. So whenever we're working with our any of our parametric objects, but specifically here our primitives, the way to go about converting this into a polygon, you can go over here. You can see this is says converts parametric object into polygonal object. You can also see the shortcut is C. Okay, you can come over here, and I can go ahead and say make editable. If I right click on this cube, okay, so either any of those solutions will work. I'll just go ahead and hit this button. You can see my handles go away, and also all of those attributes go away. I can no longer change the number of divisions or the length or the width. It's now a polygon object. You can see that the icon has now changed to this little triangle with the dots. So what is a polygon object made up of here in Cinema 4D? Well, right now we're working with just the model. So we're in model mode. We've got this activated. And so I can go to move, and I can sort of move this whole thing around. But again, I can't really manipulate the individual polygons or the points or edges. So to access any of those building blocks of our polygon, we want to come down here. So we can access the points. That's going to allow us to grab these points along the edges. In other applications, you'll find them labeled as vertices or vertex points. Basically the same thing. Okay, and these points are connected by edges. So we can come down here, go to edge mode, and now I can select different edges. I can move those around. So those are basically the lines connecting the different points. And then the visible part of our object are the polygons or faces. So I can select an individual polygon or face and move that around. Okay, so just keep that in mind. When you're working with polygons, you want it to be an editable polygon here versus a primitive or even a generator that we'll look at a little bit later. Okay, so now at this point I can shift select groups of polygons if I want to, and kind of pull those up. And now depending on the mode that we're in, we can right click, and it'll activate all of these tools that we can also get to through mesh. And we can come in here and see there's a bunch of different tools that we can get. Create tools, you can see I can come in and extrude, and I can go ahead and pull that up using extrude. Anytime we grab a modeling tool, you can see that the attributes of that tool are located down in the lower right in the attributes manager. Okay, and then we're activating, and if we want to ever go back to our object mode, we can go back to actually model mode there and grab it. Okay, move it around, and then it's also located here in our objects manager. Okay, so the idea is we want to look at some ways and kind of a workflow of working with an organic object and building it up with different techniques using polygons. So what are some of the ways that we can connect polygons together? How can we extrude out geometry from polygons? And then also working with kind of a smoothing workflow. In other applications, you maybe use kind of a sub-D workflow or just a smoothing workflow nowadays. But how can we do that in Cinema 4D? It's really, really easy, and these generators will actually make it really simple for us to kind of work on one side, use symmetry, and then also see the smooth result of that without being destructive, without having to go in and smooth it, say, no, that's not right, we got to undo it. So you'll find that in Cinema 4D you have a lot of flexibility, and the power of this hierarchical workflow will really become apparent, I think, as we go through this. Okay, so let's just a quick look at polygons themselves. Just remember, we want to convert any of these primitives or parametric objects into editable state, and then the polygons themselves are going to be made up of these points, edges, and polygons or faces, depending on your application. Here in Cinema 4D, we got points. Okay, so let's go ahead and start our project in the next lesson by looking at setting up a reference image, which is really going to help us kind of constrain our modeling to a specific image, so kind of both of our results come out fairly close. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that in the next lesson.